Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 42 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League Show podcast. I'm your host, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex, and joining me today, same lineup as last week, Scott Williams and Barry Stokes. Scotty, how are you doing today?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, same lineup. No hits taken from the podcast this week. We've just rolled it over, have we?
Yeah, we kept one free transfer. We won't be transferring Tom back in anytime soon. Has he gone down 0.1 now, hasn't he? I think for all this transferring about. Baz, good to have you back. How are you doing today?
Oh, good, thank you. We're not a rotation like Chelsea, so that's always good.
Exactly. We're keeping the same team like City this week. Boys, thanks ever so much for joining us, and everyone who's listening, thank you very much for joining us as well. And again, thank you for participating in our league. Here it is in front of your eyes. We've got Nicola Tomlinson still top, Jeff Belcher pulling back 2 points, and then underneath that we have our manager of the week this week. Congratulations to our very own David Byrne, 84 points this week. With a game week rank of 145,000 out of 10.5 or 0.6 million managers, 10.6 says it there. 84 points for podcast listeners. You've got Pope Cancelo, who was obviously the big hitter this week with 18 points. Trippier, Nico Williams, Zuma, Martinelli with 12. Let's not talk about Martinelli this week, Scott? Bowen, Zaha and Foden. Fantastic. Three players in the midfield there. Haaland, the obvious captain, and Harry Kane up top with another return for himself. Pereira sat on his bench as his last sub as well. But first thought, lads, is this the system? I think that's the first question I want to get into, because Kane keeps delivering, Haaland keeps delivering, no premiums in midfield. Is this what is optimum right now? What do you think?
That's what I'm aiming for. My next couple of transfers will be aiming for that.
Yeah,
I can't see any premium midfielders doing well.
I mean, Kane's returns to game week 1, the week I captained him. 8, 6, 10, 5, 9, 10, 6 and 1. He's scored a goal in every game except for when they played West Ham away. And even in that game, he still got an assist. So he's got an attacking return in every single one of his appearances since game week 2. Second highest scoring fantasy asset. I just think it's interesting because we're at that point now where, as we talked about at the beginning of the season, we have a really big shift in midfielders, as we always do. That's where you spend the majority of your transfers. And now it feels like we kind of had at the beginning of the season where there was like not really any 8 million midfielders. It was kind of like a couple of big hitters in the 6.5s. Whereas now it feels like we've kind of gone to that point where you can have Foden, Zaha, Bowen, Maddison, Martinelli as your midfield 5, and then you play 2 up front of Kane and Haaland. So,
what's Kane's fixtures, Guru? Let's have a look under then.
Well, if we
I've not had him in, and he's been bloody murdering me.
In terms of the fixture difficulty rating, they're second until the World Cup now.
Well, he's coming in then, isn't he? He's coming in. I'm taking a -8, and he's coming in.
First time for everything this season. Are you just taking the bold what Tom might do but won't do?
No, I will do this. I will get Kane because I'm sick and tired of him just keeping returning, and I don't have him in my team. Man U away. They don't keep clean sheets, do they? So
neither do Newcastle.
Oh yeah, well, not now. We've got all the bloody defensive assets in there, haven't they? And Liverpool at home, let's be honest, they can't keep a clean sheet for Toffee either. So,
Newcastle at home, Bournemouth away, Liverpool at home, Leeds at home. That takes you to the World Cup. And then his run after the World Cup, not that it matters too much, but just I think he will be I'd be surprised if he's not a striker. I'd be surprised if this system that we've just discussed isn't what kind of everyone goes towards after the World Cup. Because no one's going to bin off Haaland, especially considering Norway aren't at the World Cup, so he's got a rest for a month. Just keep himself match fit, keep banging in the goals and training and relax. Then Brentford away, Villa at home, Palace away. Yeah, Arsenal at home, but you know what he's like in a North London derby. Fulham away, City at home, but then Leicester, West Ham. These fixtures, he's not really got like a clump of bad fixtures after. So he's 11.4. He started the season at 11.5. I mean, it seems like a relatively obvious starting point and topic, doesn't it? Great podcasting. I'll get the one of the Premier League's top scorers of all time into your team. But at 11.4, he's killing me. He's obviously killing you.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be quite a hefty shift.
I think he's someone I'm definitely getting in this week. Like you said, and I think I'm sorry if I've jumped the gun a bit here. To save money, you can easily go from KDB to Philip, can't you? Let's be honest. That saves a lot of crust.
You've brought up the topic straight away because we need to discuss how we're going to navigate game week 12. So there's been quite a few injuries and rotations that have come into play in this last game week. You know, our good friend Nico Williams. He's not started now. Serge Aurier's got in the team.
Yeah.
He's someone that was going to be of great interest to us. He was somebody who was going to probably sit in most of our teams this week when there's no assets playing. And then also, I'll just click on my team for an example. Reece James has got a knock. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Mitrovic, apparently there's been good comments in training. Apparently he should be back this weekend, Mitrovic, but you never know. But then someone like Patterson, red flagged. I think we're going to... A lot of people were just talking about carrying Martinelli, Cancelo and Haaland through this week and probably getting rid of De Bruyne and then doing exactly what you've said there, Scott. Because if you look at Man City's fixtures, then after that they've got Brighton. No one's, no one's as... they're not looking as solid under this new manager, realistically, I don't think. Leicester, Fulham and Brentford up until the World Cup. And then you can get Kane in and you can have Foden in midfield. So a lot of people are going to be thinking about doing that in game week 13. How are your teams looking? Baz, how's your team looking going into game week 12? Let's get it up on the screen. Who are you going to be keeping hold of in terms of City and Arsenal assets, etc.?
I've only got two anyway, so but no Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought they had some tough fixtures coming up, and obviously getting rid of Martinelli's absolute killed me. But I think it did with most people that got rid of him. So I'm looking at getting rid of Soufal and Ivan Toney this week. Got two free transfers. So, but it's the decision of who to get in for Soufal. I was thinking of getting a Wolves defender in. I was going to save a bit of money and get Totti in because Collins is still banned. So 3.9. Going to start probably. Played quite well maybe against Chelsea. I've seen a few highlights at game. But I'm probably going to look for a Johnny. Johnny at 4.4. Got quite a few. It took a long time for me to get on that one.
It's played right into Scott's there. Scott's
humour. Sure, my humour there. Bloody hell.
Yeah, it took a long while for everyone to get on that little joke. But yeah, 4.4. Johnny's got a few good shots on him. Yeah, so I'll probably be going for him.
Innuendo bingo now.
It certainly is. So, you obviously with your two players, that's fine. It makes sense that when you've got no Arsenal. Scott, how are you looking for game week?
Game week flags, isn't it? With Sheldon Cooper at the minute.
You landed in a plane.
Oh, obviously it's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean,
we've got suspended, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, suspended a little. Little so and so. Yeah, he needs to get Miles out of my team. But there's a lot of players that, need to get out of my team here. I'm thinking this week I'm probably going to gamble on Mitro playing. I thought he'd play last week. He's really let me down there, actually. I'm probably going to roll a dice on Mitrovic playing. Or I kind of want to get Kane in now. I have got money in the bank. Does it show you on here how much you got in the bank?
You've got 3.7.
Yeah, it's a bit of crust in there. So I might potentially do De Bruyne to Philip, and then Callum, or I don't know why I'm first naming them all, like I'm best friends with them all, or Wilson and Mitrovic to Kane, and then I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, run out of players there. Yeah, I'm probably gonna just cry in a corner this weekend.
I think the biggest problem that you've got is when you're looking at game week 12 is Bailey's probably going to be injured still. Soufal's a rotation risk. Then then Nico Williams isn't going to play. So you've got Bailey, Sufal, Williams might get a point. He might come on off the bench. You never know. He might start. It could happen. But you've got a couple of heavy rotation risks in an injury, and then you've also got 3 players that aren't going to play. So there's a chance here that you might only put out. I mean, depends if James is back. Obviously, Mitrovic we expect to be back. These guys expect to play. The chance that you might field 7 or 8 players in this game week.
Plus Pereira as well. Aaron Wilson's back, isn't he?
Well, this is it. Wilson's playing. I think that's what I'd be worried about. I think I encourage everyone to do this when look at your team and just see who you got, because when we look, I've absolutely thrown the agenda out the window here. I've gone to the other place first, and then we'll go back to the rest of it. But it's the way the conversation goes. But game week 12 is also a midweek game week. And it's the only midweek game week that we've got for the rest of the season. So we shouldn't see heavy rotation with these other teams. But if there's going to be rotation, it's probably going to be this week. So I think we might see a bit of a massacre on some people's teams. But there are some pretty decent fixtures. I mean, Chelsea having Brentford's a good fixture. People United and Spurs is probably the biggest game on there. Liverpool, West Ham, anything can happen in these. But there's some quite tasty fixtures here, so I think there could be some decent swings in this game week. I've got to say, I'll be interested to see. It could be there'll be a lot of luck on the line in this one in terms of who's going to play and who's not. We can try to predict it all we can, but you never can predict it clearly enough. In terms of rotation, by the way, which we'll mention now, it seems positive because Chelsea seem to have had their rotation last week, which was obviously frustrating for a guy who owned 3 Chelsea assets and none of them started. But at the same time, it's normally good when they've had the rotation. You don't then go, oh no, they've been dropped, I must drop them now. It's not like that. They should have had their rest. So hopefully that's a positive thing. Also with City's rotation, Haaland's had his rest in midweek with the 0-0 against Copenhagen.
You say that about Chelsea though, but them 3 players played last night, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So they had their rest in the Premier League. So I feel like it's fine.
Right. You're saying they were rested specifically because of the Champions League. Now that's out of the way. They'll be back in the Premier League team.
Yeah, I think they needed to beat Milan.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
that was a big game for them yesterday, and I feel like Potter knew that, and they were playing the worst team in the league at the moment, really ish. Wolves, one of the worst.
Yeah.
So I feel like he rotated against that team. I feel like he played that quite tactically. I don't think Chelsea's a massive worry for rotation. I don't know what you think. What do you boys think? Do you think it's a worry for Chelsea's rotation? Do you still think he doesn't know his best 11?
I don't think he knows his best 11 yet. I think he's too soon into the job. I think he's got a decent idea of his best 11, but I think there's certain players like, I'd look at that left back spot. I think he trusts both Chilwell and Cucurella, for instance. So I can see them two swapping in and out again a lot. I think looking further forward, I think if he was to put his first 11 down on paper, he'd play Aubameyang every single time. And I thought Aubameyang played really well last night, actually. I think that's what they need. And I think he'd probably trust Sterling as well. But I think he's still looking around. I think Baz mentioned him last week, like Conor Gallagher, for instance. He seems to fancy him a little bit as well. So he's kind of coming in and out. I think one player that they just seem to just play, and I'm pretty sure he played last week. Please tell me he did. Mason Mount. He seems to be the one that's kind of stuck in there a little bit. But yeah, Baz, thoughts?
I think defensively, I think that's where they look at rotating quite a lot, as you mentioned, with the left back situation. Right back's kind of set in stone, really. Yeah, Aspilicueta might play centre half, maybe, but I think right back, Reece James has cemented that. But yeah, Mount's looking really good. Broha came on and scored, so it's not really set in stone for forward line either, to be honest. But I think he knows more about his attacking players than his defensive players. Obviously, he trusts Cucurella because he used to have him at Brighton. So that's one reason why I put him in my team when I wildcarded, because Potter trusts him. And why would he drop a player that he's had in the past and he knows what he's going to get from him?
Fair enough. And it takes us on to obviously I've mentioned about rotation for Chelsea, but you wanted to mention a lack of rotation in Man City's team generally in terms of the league so far. Cancelo's playing every game, Haaland's playing every game. It feels like these guys can be trusted. So Foden's played every game, hasn't he? He's played every game.
Yeah, he has.
It's everyone's got this thing in their head about Pep, and I just think from what our discussions beforehand, having City assets in your team isn't something that we really need to worry about in terms of rotation too much moving forward. Injuries and bans. I'm going to mention this because it's important. Looking at someone like Anthony Gordon, for an example, who's got banned. Jesus, 1 yellow card away from a suspension. Jacob Ramsey is as well. James Maddison, 1 away from suspension. I think I saw. Did I see Dallo on David Burns' bench? I think it was Dallo on any of your benches.
No,
he's a walking yellow card. Dallo was taken from a United fan. He's 1 away from a suspension. So there's a few players here where you don't want to be bringing them in with a blank game week lingering every show. I think personally, if we look at Leicester's fixtures, for an example, they've got Palace at home, Leeds at home, next two. They should be really good fixtures, and Wolves away. They're good fixtures. I feel like if you're not going to bring Maddison in this week, you're probably going to have maybe missed the boat with him. But I actually kind of think that I don't think that about us at Palace. Maybe you've got another week with Zaha. But still, at the same time, I think that you need to be moving towards these assets at this very moment in time. West Ham have got Southampton away and Liverpool away, to 2 away games, and Bournemouth at home and Man United away. What do you make of their fixtures, and what do you make of Jared Bowen? Jared Bowen, discuss.
Good shot.
Cheers, chap.
He's got 2 and 2, hasn't he? So it is just that. But for me, we know what Bowen's about. I'd go more on Scamacca. For me, I'm tempted to bring him in instead of Mitrovic. Yes, Mitrovic has got obviously an amber flag on him, or a yellow flag. But Scamacca, I'm thinking, he's got quite a few decent runs. Liverpool conceding, Man U conceding. He's 6.7. He's cheaper than Mitrovic. So
I hand on heart nearly brought him in last week.
That's where I'd probably be going.
I nearly brought him in last week. I genuinely did. And I know Jeff, who's in our league as well, for another podcast, he did bring him in. And I'm a bit annoyed because he did. I mean, I brought Wilson, he got an assist, but, Scamacca, he scored, didn't he, last week?
He did score 3.
Yeah, he's scoring all types of goals as well. He could have got a hat-trick.
Or 2 and 3, I should say. With the Scamacca thing, I mean, let's just quickly touch on VAR. Should have been a goal. Shouldn't have been a goal. Did you see the handball incident? Anyone witness it?
Do you know what? It's the one game I didn't see this weekend. I didn't catch it.
Did you see it, Baz?
To be honest, I didn't. So it's another good chat from me, Alex. There, mate.
No worries, chaps. I'll take this one. So the ball kind of comes over the top and it bounces up. Like it kind of bounces like it gets stuck underneath him, and I think it hits his hand the way that it then stops, and then it almost looks like it might touch his elbow, and then he lobs the keeper, and it's such a good finish. But then he doesn't celebrate. He just stands there and goes, like, dobs his head around a little bit, like he knows he's handballed it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely not clear and obvious. It's difficult to see on the angles, but he basically goes, "Yeah, handballed it." And then VAR give the goal. Then he runs off and goes, "Oh my God, Scott!" Then he celebrates like a nutter afterwards. Like, if you ever judge by a player's reaction ever that they're guilty, it was then. Like he knew he'd handballed it. Anyway, whatever. That was just a thought. Scamacca 6.7 mil. He seems to be getting minutes in every single game. I don't blame anybody at all for giving him a shot. The fixtures look good. If we look at West Ham's assets for the last sort of five game weeks, Antonio's got appearances in all of the last 5 as well. He scored 2 goals. I mean, did anyone? I'm going to ask again. You both didn't see his goal, obviously, then, because that's the one that you.
Oh, I have seen it. Yeah, actually, it was shocking. His thrown goal. He's hit it straight at keeper. He's got to look. It's bounced back to him. They were playing about with his feet, and he just tapped it in. I was like, God, if that was my centre forward doing that.
They were.
It didn't look. It was lack of confidence. Finish, put it that way, and he's on the bench for that reason. Coming on, stretching the back line of the defenders to give you that outlet, and obviously his finish. Well,
and also there's the bit before, like where the ball flicks up, like one of the Fulham defenders kicks up, and Antonio almost like puts both of his hands in front of it and pushes it with his hands in front of him, like he's volleyballed it, and it goes in front of him, and then he takes a touch, and obviously then he does this terrible finish, and then it gets bounced back out to him. Fulham completely mess it up, and then Antonio has a tap in, which he still nearly missed. Actually, he still panicked over it, but because it was a second phase of play, apparently, like because the keeper had touched it, and then they'd messed about, they had an opportunity to clear it. It was still given as a goal, even though he clearly handballed it. It's obviously like Rashford's got ruled out, but you know, technically Pickford touched that one as well. But like it's still because it was the same phase of play and he handballed it. There were some right funny ones this weekend, I think, in terms of decisions. We'll talk about Arsenal Liverpool in a minute actually, because I know that was an interesting one. But to finish off with the Arsenal chat, I think Paqueta looks like a very good player. I'm not too sure about him as a fantasy asset. He's got 15 points in the last 5 game weeks. Souček ticking away with 19, but Bowen by far and away is the best West Ham asset. So if you're looking for a West Ham player to bring in, I think it's Bowen number 1, then Scamacca number 2. You can potentially look at their defenders, but I wouldn't bother, to be honest. I think they're too open at the back moving forward. Another team I wanted to touch on is Bournemouth, because Gary O'Neill seems to have got them ticking quite nicely, I think. They're up to 8th or 9th in the table. They're in the top half. And they were doing, at least they were when I last looked at the table, and they're doing fantastically. Scotty, what have you been making of Bournemouth these last few games?
Been impressive, haven't they? Like I say, they've certainly turned the corner. I mean, one thing that they have done, I'm sure they've come from behind like 3 or 4 times to win games of football this season, which for any team to do is super impressive. They did it again, didn't they, against Leicester? Yeah, there was 1-0 down and they've turned it around, and they've done it the other week. I think it was a couple of 4-3 thrillers they've been in where they've come from behind as well. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? It's obviously he's calmed it down a bit, but I'd be still wary of Bournemouth. You're going behind in every game, so it's like how many times can you come back from the dead? But you would only expect that so many times from a Bournemouth team anyway, from a newly promoted team. They seem like they're playing quite entertaining football and entertaining games as well, minus a 0-0 against Brentford. But I don't know. I don't think anyone was looking at that thinking that was going to be big point scoring or captaining anyone in that game. Sorry, Baz.
I know.
But yeah, no, he's done well. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? It's like, give him the job. But is it going to be one of those we've seen it before, where as soon as the caretaker manager gets the job, it then goes off the boil a little bit. So yeah, I mean, when they've lost 9-0, they've drew 1, drew 1. It's not bad, is it?
No, not at all. And in terms of assets, Baz, anyone stick out for you?
Billings, Christie, and Solanke. Christie's got 8 shots in the box, 4 on target from that in the last couple of game weeks. So it's definitely worth, and he's probably not worth. How much is he worth, Christie? 5.3 million, yeah, same as Billings. So cheap little assets to have, because if you're worried about Pereira with Harry Wilson coming back, it could be a go-to option with the midfielders I've just mentioned.
We're looking, I mean, Billing has got 3 goals this season, 38 points, and 5.3. Like for a midfield option, you've got a couple of players here if you really want some enablers. The only thing I will say is that I think we've got an abundance of midfield talent at the moment who are probably going to outscore Philip Billing, who are all between 8.5 and sort of 6.5 million quid. And so hopefully we're not going to be short of money anyway. And we're not all clambering over having a Trent and Robbo double up, at the moment, which is one of the things that costs us a lot of money. Pretty sure at the back at the moment we have Cancelo. And if we want to then go with, like a James or a Trippier or whatever else, like we're not spending loads of money. I think the majority of FPL managers would be quite flush with cash. And if you're not flush with cash, I'd have a good look at your team, because you must be wasting it somewhere. There's no need to have Salah, De Bruyne, Haaland, and Kane in the same team, which I know we saw from a few people a few weeks back. Like 4 big hitters. There's just no need for it at the moment, and that shift has been really noticeable, I think, in terms of players and quality. Wolves are top of the fixture ticker. Quick question for you guys: anybody going to be touching any Wolves assets anytime soon, other than Johnny, of course? Baz, other than Johnny, of course.
Yeah, that's it.
No,
it's a hard no from me.
I love a good hard no. You're just not. We need to wait and see which Portuguese. Do we know the manager's going to be yet, Scott?
No, it's just Laportagia, whatever his name is. It's horrendous they pronounce that. He's turned him down, hasn't he? Because he wants for personal reasons. So still on the lookout. I think that was their number one target. The ex-Spanish manager, wasn't he? Maybe like Sevilla or whatever.
Yeah. He's the guy that got fired from Real Spanish team because he took the Madrid job or whatever.
Yeah, he got that, and then he got sacked, and then he went back to the Spanish job. I don't know. Yeah, one of those. But he's not going to be manager there. So
fair enough.
Yeah, Wolves are very, very much Wolves are playing. I'm not exactly rushing to tune in this season.
Liverpool assets. So, did either of you watch the Liverpool Arsenal game?
Yes, certainly did.
Okay, good. Baz, did you watch it?
Bare highlights, yeah.
But you've seen them. Cool.
Yes.
That's what I'll make sure I know before I ask the question this time. Scotty, what did you make of? Obviously, we had a good chat about Arsenal last week, basically being favourites for second. This was a big game for them this week.
Yeah.
What did you make of the match itself in general, Arsenal and Liverpool?
Yeah, brilliant game. Really good game. I think you always get that with Arsenal, Liverpool, though. It's not one of those fixtures that you sort of get worried about. I know Liverpool Man U at times has been a bit of a dull, mainly in the Mourinho days. But fantastic game of football. I think personally, the scoreline actually flattered Liverpool a bit. I think Arsenal were definitely a couple of goals better than Liverpool, I would say. I think one of the first real tests of the season, and they came through it smelling the roses, really. So it's only going to do them the world of confidence going forward. You could tell by Arteta's reaction at the end of the game how big he knew the game was, because yes, this Liverpool team of not having a great season, but it's still this Liverpool team that we were saying 6 months ago are one of the best teams ever to be in the Premier League. So the fact that they still beat them 3-2 is a brilliant achievement. And again, anyone, I'll mention Monday Night Football every week here, but I love it, and I know you love it as well, Al. And it really does break games down well, and it does really show how brilliant Arteta's tactical planning was in that game, and how he set them up to beat Arsenal, to beat Liverpool rather. So fantastic game. They've got some unbelievable players, like I said, Martinelli. It wasn't just his, points returns. It was one of those where he did what Salah did. Every time he gets the ball, it looked like he was going to do something. He was so exciting, and he is the real deal. But yeah, very, very impressed.
Baz, what did you make of it?
Exactly the same. I think Saka and Martinelli just torn Liverpool defence a new one. When you've got Jesus running around as well in the mix, it's very difficult to defend that. They're quite rotational players where they can swap and change. Like Saka could probably potentially go up front, Jesus could go on wing. It's very hard to mark, and especially with Liverpool's confidence as well. It's very hard for them to see where they're going to turn it around. Hopefully, they can turn it around in game week 12 with West Ham. Hopefully, get something from the City game because, as Klopp's mentioned, he's hard to.
Sorry, chaps. The recording has carried on. Apologies. That was a technical issue on my part, but we are still recording, chaps. So, Baz, sorry, I cut you off in terms of you were talking about Liverpool, which you probably kept talking about for a little while after I cut you off. But yeah, you were discussing the issues that Liverpool were having. Sorry.
Yes, all right, mate. I'm trying to retract some steps now. Yeah, so especially Liverpool, the lack of confidence they've got. It doesn't seem well going forward, especially when they've got City coming up. Hopefully they can turn that around in obviously the games leading up to the World Cup. Martinelli had Trent on toast, to be honest. He just absolutely destroyed him. But the front three for Arsenal looked really well. So it's an aging team for Liverpool. They need to put that obviously impetus in it. I think they miss when Elliott's not in the team giving that energy. I think that's another issue. But yeah, over to Scott with his opinion.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I think for me, if they're just maybe lacking one attacking player, Arsenal, just for that bit of strength and depth. I know they've got a couple on the bench in Kessie, Fabio Vieira rather, to come off the bench. But looking at that, they've not really got that much more. I think the defence is actually really solid now, and they've got that strength and depth. They got with Tomiyasu back, and they've even got some like Cedric. I know he's not a great player, but you know, worst comes to worst, he's there. So I think that's maybe one player to lack in January, just to get another attacker in or a wide winger. But yeah, fair play. I think as always, they're one of the best teams to watch, and yeah, well done, Mikel. Great plan.
For the good old project, eh? The a couple of key decisions. The Gabriel handball penalty for you or not?
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because like it is a penalty with the current rules because his hand's away from his body, but it was kind of a natural movement, which was but it is. It's a penalty, isn't it? Let's be honest. That's what it is. Yeah,
it's definitely a penalty, and you can even tell by how the Neville and Tyler reacted to it. They're like, oh, it's going to be a pen. But unfortunately, Liverpool fans, when things like go your way, and as a Man U fan, Alex, and as Swansea and Scunthorpe fans, we can all agree with this. It's things like this happen, and you've had a few good years, I'm afraid, Liverpool fans, but it's over now. Yeah,
and also the penalty that they gave away. I mean, he has kicked through the back of his leg, and it's you're never overturning that with VAR. I mean, I wish I had a quid for every time I've heard a pundit call it a soft penalty this weekend. But like, you know, soft penalty is a penalty still, so it is a pen for me personally, and you're never overturning it. So that's that decision. Liverpool were undone by their own really, really poor concentration and bad defending. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, the 3-on-3 and then Trent goes over and for the Saka goal. I mean, just stick with your man. I mean, they've cost that. Thiago not tracking back properly and whatever else. Then for the penalty, you know, it was a lack of concentration from Liverpool defender. Their confidence is shot. They're mentally not there, and that is the big reason why. I mean, I had this debate actually with Sandeep, who's a listener of the podcast, who we all know very well. And I was saying to him when we were having a bit of food together, I said, look, you know, I'm going to go against Haaland this week against Liverpool. You know, I think in my position, you have to. Well, and he disagreed with me. And actually, I fully agree with him now. I've changed my mind on that. Like, Liverpool look really bad at the moment defensively. Loads of lapses in concentration. And Haaland got arrested midweek and looks insane. I think it's a no-brainer captaincy.
He got what?
Arrest.
All right, I thought you said he got arrested. That's going to put a spanner in the works, isn't it?
No, he's on the bench. He wasn't.
Get him out.
On an anchor.
He's gone with Mendy, isn't he?
Oh God! This podcast has no opinions on anything like that. But the thing is with the Haaland. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Haaland, did get arrested for a few weeks, at least we'd have a different captain, wouldn't we?
I'll probably do something well in there. But yeah.
I've got to edit it enough anyway because of my internet connection issues, Baz. Thanks for that. But with Liverpool, obviously with the Diaz injury, one of the things that people have been debating is whether you go for Foden or Saka straight away from that. I would say no. You'd wait until game week 13, but get Diaz out your teams. You've got Zaha, Bowen, Maddison. Even players like when you look at Newcastle, I mean, Man United, Everton, and Spurs. I mean, they're not great fixtures, but for a team like Newcastle, you've got Bruno Guimaraes, someone like that, to free up the funds to do whatever else. I think there's plenty of options out there, just not for your captaincy. Couple of quick fire ones then, lads, because we'll start with Liverpool. Firmino, is he an option? Scott, you're first. Go.
Yeah, because my mum's got him in. So
Judith.
Yeah, there you go. There's your shout out, mum. Yeah, she's. I think it's definitely an option, especially now, like you said, the injury to Diaz, 100% option, and he's actually looking really good. I think he's the kind of player that will play against Man City. I think that hold the ball up and bring others into play. I think that's what they need against the City. Just to counter attack, not counter attack, but when they're breaking it. So yes, quick fire, Scott. Yes, he is an option. I think only because of the injury to Diaz.
Anything different to say there, Baz?
Everything is exactly what Scott says. Apart from, obviously, my mum hasn't got him in fantasy team.
Oh, does she do fantasy? No.
Quick fire.
Onto Man United. Anthony, 3 goals in 3. Next fixtures are Newcastle, Spurs, and Chelsea, West Ham, Villa, and Fulham. An option? Thinking about getting? Is he somebody that's on your mind?
Sorry to jump in, Baz. I'm going to answer this one again, only because he is coming into my team this week.
Nice one, Baz.
Yeah, he's someone in mind for me. Obviously, I'm not putting him in, but yeah, definitely worth looking into.
Fantastic. What's going wrong at Villa? Baz, over to you.
Just the creativity. There's nothing there. They bring Coutinho in. They think, yeah, he's going to fix it all. He did really well at back end of season, but there's nothing there. The game between Forest and Villa on Monday was like, yeah, it finished 1-1, but it won't do it. Watkins doesn't look right. There's obviously Matty Cash isn't the same. It's just, I don't know what Gerrard's doing with team. He's got a good bunch of players. Yeah, he's got a few injuries and things like that, but people are saying, yeah, he's going to be the next Liverpool manager. But, well, obviously he needs to book his ideas or something.
Just seems to have made everyone worse.
I don't know.
Just seems to make everyone worse. He's not improved anybody, I don't think.
No. Apart from Ramsey, played really well back end of the season, but
yeah, fair play.
Apart from that.
You're right there, apart from Ramsey. No, you are right. But other than that, I don't. Yeah,
he don't know his best 11. Simple as that.
Yeah,
he doesn't. A few other questions now that have come in from some listeners, so we'll try and rattle through these as fast as we can do. Anybody else you're considering other than Kane for Spurs as a Spurs asset?
Do you know what? Just a bit different. Højbjerg seems to always get shots away. And I know he's quite cheap, but he does seem to just do stuff, and he's always sniffing around the box. So, yeah, maybe a little cheeky Højbjerg.
He's had eight shots this season.
There you go. Always getting them away.
More than the same amount as Richarlison.
There you go.
to be fair. Yeah. to be fair. It's Kane, Son, and then he's only 2 behind Coolers. That's good than Kane and Son. Yeah, he's up there in terms of shots. And anybody from your perspective, Baz?
No.
Good, love that. There's the quick fire. That's what we're talking about here, then, chaps. And to be fair, I agree. I mean, maybe a defender if you wanted to get stuck into them because of the fixtures that are up and coming. Anyone else? This is another question. Any Palace defenders that you're considering? So this is actually a question that came in. I mean, Anderson for me, maybe it's got to be someone who's got a mention, but other than maybe Gaeta as the keeper, but even then there's a potential rotation there. I can't think of any other Palace defenders, lads. Any from your perspective?
No,
I was tempted to get Mitchell, but no. As I mentioned, I'm probably going to get Johnny in.
You're giving me
Castagna.
In the injury?
Castagna.
He's got
an eye injury. He's got an eye injury, but that's going to probably help Leicester's defence, to be honest. Might see properly.
So true. They're terrible, aren't they? Leeds United. Are there any assets at Leeds to consider? And one of our listeners has asked, will Marsh make Christmas? Kind of wish Tom was on this for this one.
Oh, they've suddenly turned into a team I can't be bothered to watching TV anymore, and I'm quite happy to say this because there's no Leeds fans on this pod. I know we have a lot of listeners, but my God, your team's got boring all of a sudden. Anyone to? Yeah, I mean, I think Aronson, he did one good run, didn't he, the other day, for the goal. Aronson would be the one I would look at if I was to bring any in.
Baz?
Same with me, Harrison, or probably Jack Harrison. But apart from that, as Scott mentioned last week, the wind-up merchants. Zaha getting sent off.
Yeah. It couldn't nearly happen.
Oh, yeah, who's you sending off this week, Scott?
That's coming, mate. That's coming.
That's what I'll. Okay. Don't you worry. When I touch on the fixtures, we'll do that. A couple of quick pointers I wanted to throw out there as well. People were asking about top 10k and this, that, and the other. In terms of captaincy, I mean the top 10k was last week was 98.8% Haaland. The rest of them don't know what they were thinking. But Haaland there, obviously delivering some ridiculous numbers. I think we'll see still something.
Fair play to the ones that did Cancelo, by the way, 0.04.
You got to be said. I mean, they've done in terms of actual score. Cancelo 0 for Saka, 0 for Gomes, 0.01. So that's what 10 managers less than in the top. Martinelli. So and Foden, at that point, 50 managers.
I like the managers that got giddy and thought Haaland's run ridiculousness could just continue and triple captained Haaland. And someone already mentioned on his podcast did that.
Absolutely. Well done, Sandy.
Your mum.
Triple captain.
She knows better than that. She knows the better to wait for a double game week.
Especially with Haaland. I mean, I think with the returns he can get, I mean, there's potential for 100 points for a triple captain.
I think there's a double game week coming at the end for City, which is like Bournemouth and Fulham or something, isn't it? It's ridiculous. So potentially,
was that Planet FPL you were listening to about it?
Yeah.
So just a shout out to Planet FPL because I really enjoy listening to their podcasts. They do one every day, so I never listen to all of them, but I'll try and tune into a few of them. And James from Planet FPL is really good at dissecting the fixtures and figuring out who's going to be playing who later on. So yeah, City potentially have got a ridiculously good double game week coming up at some point moving forward. One of the other questions I had was about ranks, and if you're looking at your current score at this very moment, I couldn't find a graphic for this, which was annoying. But I did look this up before, and I was just trying to look on Live FPL because this is where I got the information from, but I couldn't see it quickly enough there. But the person who's number one in the world has got 712 points, and the top 100 688, top 1K 671. So between the 100th and 1,000.
Oh, playoffs.
Done it again. Sorry about that. Between 100th and 1,000th, there's only 17 points. So that's how close it is across the top lot. And then also the top 10K 648 points. So between being 300,000 and 10,000, there's only 45 points. So it's really condensed up there at this very moment in time. So if you sat there with an overall rank of, the people at 500k are only 10 points off 300k. And at 500k, 593 points. The top 10k, you're literally 55 points off. You're 55 points off in your 500k compared to 10k. So it's worthwhile being patient. And for those of us down in 5 millionth, you're dreaming. So that's where we're at with those. So sorry about a couple of the sets of technical issues that we've had today. Been very, very frustrating, but as usual, they've come from my end. So let's touch on the fixtures for game week 11, and then we'll have a look at captains and we can move forward. So the deadline is this coming Friday at 6:30. It's a Friday deadline. Brentford are playing Brighton on Sky. Then we've got Leicester Palace, Fulham Bournemouth, Wolves Forest, Spurs Everton. And then on Sunday, Villa Chelsea, Leeds Arsenal, Man U Newcastle, Southampton West Ham, and to round it off, Liverpool face Man City at Anfield. Captains this week, boys. Thinking any further than Haaland's away at Anfield. Ridiculous that we've got to basically think that he's going to be the nailed on captain. But anybody thinking anything different or any other options?
Nope. Big game player.
Harry.
I think there will be a few games this week. Yeah.
Kane against Everton at home, evening game as well. There's, I think a lot of us were looking this week at maybe Mitrovic against Bournemouth, even Sterling or Aubameyang against Villa. But
you say that that's my red card of the week, Sterling or Aubameyang.
Sterling or Oba.
Yeah, but I think Thiago's got a red card in them this week as well.
With Matip being injured, Trent being. Do you think Trent's even injured? I think they're just giving him a break.
I think he's off on holiday with Harry Maguire. I think they need to just sort their heads out.
They're having a cuddle, aren't they, somewhere, just getting over the sad times they're having currently from their dizzy heights. Yeah, I think at the end of the day we're looking at Haaland captains, but there'll be a few differentials, and there's a few really good options out there you could go for, and none of them are wrong. So. I'm still tempted to go different.
You may as well, mate. Nothing to lose.
I think that's
exactly triple captain it as well.
Yeah.
Jesus, can you imagine?
Get Højbjerg in your team and captain him. Go on.
Go and get some shots off.
There you go. That'd be good.
But yeah, 6:30 deadline, lads. I'll call it there because my technical issues are making this incredibly fun to record. So thanks ever so much for everyone that's joined us this week and tuned in. Thanks, Barry, for joining us again this week. Very much enjoy having you on. And Scotty, thank you for being here again. Don't forget to follow us on All in Football Pod, All in Football P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week. Bye for now.